Hello everybody, my name is Jenny and this is Reality TV Breakdown. Today we are going to be talking about Seeking Sister Wives, specifically Season 5, Episode 9. Let's do it. Okay, so we have 4 families that are covered in this specific episode. 3/4 of it is the Merrifields. The other quarter is divided amongst the other 3 families. Really, they're all quite boring compared to the Merrifields. Let's start with the other families, knock them out of the way, and then we'll talk Danielle and Garrick. Okay, first family are the Sherwoods. This is Shane and Ashley. Now, they had a big episode last episode. This was the whole kidney cancer reveal, currently in remission. There was another issue with the other kidney, I believe it was. He had to go for another screening. He had put it off. In this episode, we find out he finally went and did the screening. Somehow, all of a sudden, in this episode, the whole cancer thing doesn't seem as serious. But maybe it's just them pushing forward because they don't have additional information. I don't know. So they go out to dinner with Rachel. Now remember, Rachel is the girl who was a friend of Shane's that was sitting poolside with him in their backyard that one day when he was talking about Grace. Remember Grace, the girl no one liked, the potential sister wife that did not last very long as soon as she met Shane. So in that episode, he was talking all about it with Rachel by the pool. And I kept thinking, it's really interesting that this girl is such a good friend of his. I didn't realize she's a good friend of theirs. Because I remember in that episode, Ashley being all excited that he spoke with Rachel. And I was like, okay, I don't get really excited when my husband is alone having another girl come and talk deep, intimate, serious conversations. But I mean, that's just me. I don't think of myself as a jealous person at all. That just seems logical. But unless it's a situation like this, now it makes more sense. This family, each episode is making more sense. So she's a friend of both of theirs. So they're all going out to dinner and they're discussing the whole thing. Of course, now Shane and Ashley have moved on to Sarah. They're talking about the pros and cons of Sarah, mostly all pros. The cons are she's never been in a committed relationship before. That's all they're looking for. Shane shares that he was really hesitant about Ashley before, but not so much anymore because he sees how happy it makes Ashley. I found it interesting that Ashley shared that Shane is the only man who's ever been able to completely fulfill her. It's a nice thing to say about somebody. I really didn't think much of Shane the first time he came. I don't even think they were in episode 1, but whenever they premiered, I thought, oh, he kind of seems like a doofus. Now he seems like a big teddy bear that I love. Ask me again in 3 or 4 more episodes. Maybe it'll change. Maybe this whole kidney cancer thing will be a lie and then I'll flip back. But as of now, I'm Team Shane. This is the first time that Ashley is dating other women. So this hasn't been like a pattern in her past or something like that, because she's come right out and said, I'm bisexual. Like, it's something of who I am. It's something who I've always been and part of my past. And we're integrating it into our marriage now. But that's not how it went down. This is all new for her. So I can see why Shane is also a little put off. And I don't know if put off is the right term. I would say he takes a step back every time he sees the two of them flirting and getting along, because he's just sort of like, whoa, this is new. I don't know what to make of this. Later on in the episode, Sarah comes over. So she comes over to visit. Sean has decided that he is definitely going to get to the bottom of it, and this might be the end of her because they want a committed relationship and she's never been in one. Luckily, it's Ashley talking and not Shane, because I think he would have made her just run for the door. She comes out, Sarah that is, Sarah comes out and admits that she really enjoyed their date together, but Shane was very intense. And luckily he just laughs about it. It's like, well, yeah, I get that. So he basically says nothing, which is good. Ashley shares that she feels a connection, she's attracted to her, she would love to have something, but really they're only interested in a commitment going forward. Now, it's only been 2 dates, so understandably, Sarah's like, huh, okay, what? But in the talking head, we hear from Ashley. Ashley admits that Sarah really has been polyamorous, and in a polyamorous situation, People can go with multiple partners, as many as they want. Everyone can be with whoever they want to be. And they are not interested in that. Sarah is shocked that she's asked to be exclusive, but she says, okay. Sarah promised she would not have any additional relationships. It would just be them. That's all they wanted. Sean seemed like he was going to do the jig. He was happy as a clam. Happy as a clam until Ashley kissed Sarah goodbye. And then he was kind of like, what happened there? And she's like, I don't know. Or you just kissed. Oh, this is a bizarre relationship. Okay, next family, Davis family. Very small clip. All we see in this episode is April going out to eat with her brother, her younger brother. His name is Billy. He lives in the area too, but he's getting ready to move to Florida. So they're having a sit-down conversation. I don't even think it was dinner. I think they just got a drink. So this is a lot of the same in terms of April reiterating, Danielle is back. Now we're going to try to find another sister wife and everything. The beauty of this scene, though, and what was refreshing and new, because I feel like that story is getting stale, Billy has a fresh take on this family, and that is he's not supportive of this at all. He does not like that April is in a polygamous relationship, specifically because he's not a fan of Nick. None of us are. We feel you, Billy. He said everything we've been thinking watching this entire season and last season. I loved it. Literally everything. Everything, including touching on the things that bothered us last season. Okay, let's talk about it for a second. Billy thinks that Nick is not happy with just one person, so he tries to collect as many women as he can. That tracks. He thinks that Nick is lazy and just wants to stay home while all the wives do all the work and bring home the income. That tracks. April tries to put him in his place and say, no. He's a stay-at-home dad. You would not be saying this if it was a female staying home with the child. To which Billy comes back with what we were all thinking. What about last year, before the baby? He was home, not working, reading books on philosophy and quantum physics. Okay. I love that he comes right out and says, before Vera was here, what did Nick do at home? And April's answer? Change the subject. Or TLC edited it out. I don't know. Maybe they did. Made it look like she didn't have an answer. Because what did he do? Nothing. He admitted. He sits home and reads books on philosophy and quantum physics.
Sure he does.
He points out that nothing that April is doing is normal. That tracks. He says she and they are rushing to get another sister wife into the family. That tracks. They're still taping it. There's no season for him to watch. And yet he's aware they are rushing. They do not need to be getting another sister wife right now. April points out, well, I thought it went pretty quick with Danielle. And he's like, yeah, and she left. April's like, well, she's back. But she left. Maybe don't rush it. Good points. Good points. Then Yoda Billy shares that he thinks Danielle is just saying what everybody wants to hear and that she doesn't really want to have another sister wife. Yes, it tracks. He's brilliant. April ends it by saying only time will tell and that Danielle had said that she's ready, so she's going to take her word for it. Okay, Cody Brown, for those of you who watch Sister Wives. It's like taking a kid that doesn't want to change schools and saying, do you want to go to this other school? I got this public school here with 8,000 kids in it. I know you're used to this one where you only have 16 kids in your class and there's only one class per grade, and you've been there for 5 years and these have been your friends all along. But I think this 8,000 student school would be great down the street, don't you? Don't you think that would be great? What do you think? I'll give you a couple weeks to think about it. Now, smash a few plates. And let me take you out to eat. Now, do you think you want to go to that school, don't you? Are you ready now? Because I'm just waiting for you to say you're ready. Are you ready? The kid's going to be like, yeah, I'm ready for the 8,000 student school. Okay. And then she goes and tells Dad, hey, Junior over here is ready to go. And I believe him. We're going to take his word for it. And if it doesn't work out, it's his fault. I don't like this at all. April keeps coming down a notch every episode for me. No longer the April apologist. I'm with all of you. None of you are either. It just took me a minute. I don't know. I was trying to see the best in people. There's so many people who there's not even a glimmer of good, nor less best. So I thought, she seems nice. Yeah, no. Manipulative as well. We're going to talk Salahudins now. They're getting together for a picnic outside with some friends of theirs. This is a couple that's been married for 4 years. They're Muslim as well, and they are seeking a sister wife too. The gentleman had a wife, and then he wanted to be in a plural marriage, so he got a second wife. The first wife ended up leaving because she didn't like the idea of polygamy. So the second wife was still there, but at the same time, wife number 3, who is the girl at the picnic table, is in the picture as well. So wife number 2 gets married to him, and then wife number 3 maybe had a spiritual marriage. I don't know how that worked out. But anyway, so that's kind of the back history of these friends of theirs. The women have a whole conversation together about how trying to find somebody to join their polygamous relationship is hard.
Yes. You just figuring that out?
I'm getting overstating the obvious on this show. They act like they're tortured souls because of this. Like, I mean, what did you expect? This is not a general American culture. In fact, it's against the law in a lot of America. So yeah, it's going to be hard to find somebody. So as they're talking about it being hard, Nyla says, I don't think I'm a jealous person. Her friend had just shared how she was very jealous, especially when wife number 2, who really became wife number 1, got married. She didn't even go attend the ceremony. She went to work that day because it was too painful for her. And the jealousy was very raw and very real. Oh, FYI, that wife left too. Did I mention that when I did the recap before? So this was the only wife left. But she said she's been there long enough, 4 years, that she feels like her relationship is established enough with him that she is now open and willing and actively searching for a sister wife for her husband. So Nyla is saying, well, I don't think I have jealousy. I'm good with this. And maybe it's because we're older and we've been married. They were married for a long time. I know it was over 10 years. It's more like 15 years. Nyla says she's very secure in her marriage. And Naeem seems to be a little skeptical of what she's saying. And he points out, well, we really haven't gotten to the point that anyone's ever been with me. And it might be different then. It seemed like she was insulted that he would say, you might get jealous when you see me with, physically with, intimate with, hugs, kisses. I mean, that's what I mean by intimate. We know Becky and Justin redefined intimate in the last episode, where intimacy is just sexual relations. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about what most people call intimacy, closeness. It seems like Nyla may have gone to a lot of therapy too, because of the next line she said, I'm at an age right now that I understand that not all my feelings are facts. So I'll be able to deal with them. If a jealous emotion comes upon me, I'll be able to intellectually deal with it because I'll understand it's just a feeling. It's not a fact. We'll see how it goes. And now to our favorites, the Merrifields. So it opens up with Danielle in a taxi cab in Rio.
You've got to be kidding me.
She went after all. We were all so happy doing the happy dance at the end of the last episode. She got on a plane and she went. She goes, they get into an apartment. I don't know if he's renting this for them or it didn't say. I don't remember it ever saying down below that this was Natalia's home or Natalia's apartment. He may have been renting an Airbnb that was quite nice. Right on the beach, overlooking the ocean, 2 levels, multiple bedrooms. Lovely. Now that I think about it, there were a lot of plants out there, and she made it seem like, oh, look at, I don't know if they were orchids, I think. Look how well the orchids are growing. So that makes it seem like she wouldn't make that comment if it was just an Airbnb. So it might be Natalia's home. Unless Garrick just went and bought a place in Rio so that whenever they go back, there's a place to be there. Oh gosh, I wouldn't put that past him. I don't know how much money this family really has, but they're not poor. So Danielle arrives. Natalia seems happy. She's giving her a big hug. And then Garrick comes down the steps. He gives her a big hug. Everyone seems like There's no pregnancy. There's no weird wedding happening. This is all normal. And I thought it was odd. Danielle just throws in really early on that she's pregnant. I think she was wondering if Garrick had already shared that with Natalia or not. So she made a point to come out and say, yeah, well, I've got a baby. I'm happy. And to give Natalia credit, she said, yes. How are you feeling? Finally, somebody asks Danielle how she's feeling. All Garrick can say is, wow. Babies are a blessing. In the interview, Garrick's like, it's been 14 years. How did this happen? We'll talk about that in a second. Oh, you know what though? Right after he said that, this really bothered me. I made a point to write it down. He's like, okay, it's been 14 years for us. How did this happen? But kids are a blessing, no matter the time or the season. And that sentence really bothered me. At the surface, you probably thought, what a nice thing for him to say. But this is what he said. I don't know how this happened. But, kids are a blessing, no matter what the time or the season. There's so many negatives in there. Children are a blessing is the only positive part of the sentence. It starts off with but, and then another negation at the end, no matter what the time or the season. It's not a positive comment. He goes on to say, I'm so excited. In his interview, he says, Natalia has insecurities and jealousies, and she tries to put those on Danielle. But, they're sisters. No, Garrick, they're not sisters. They're the two women you're sleeping with. You're not married to either one of them right now. You're sleeping with two different women. They are not sisters. Very rarely do people sleep with sisters. These are not sisters. I wish she would stop saying that. But classic Garrick, taking no responsibility, goes on to say, regarding Natalia and her insecurities, I can only do as much as I can do. What's that mean? What? And you know what, Garrick? Natalia and Danielle, they can only do as much as they can do. Works both ways. Two can play this game. Oh, so the wedding is planned for this weekend, but it's still not set in stone. Apparently, they're still having some issues with getting the marriage license and the judge to marry them, and that's because somebody down in Brazil, maybe somebody that her mom shared information with, I don't know, but somebody went and told the judge that he's a polygamous man. He's not legally married to his wife in the United States, but he is living as if they are husband and wife. I don't know a whole lot about Brazil. Is it a very maybe Catholic area that possibly Christian influence can be part of the government? I just find it very interesting that the judge would say, not going to look at this legally. I'm looking at it morally. You're acting like you're married to somebody else, living with them, and you have kids. I'm not going to marry you. Go, judge, go. I'm starting to like Brazil. The last thing I would do is put this pasty big body in a bathing suit on a beach in Brazil. Oh, my word. Okay. Where are we? There's a lot of interviews in this segment, in this episode. So not as much actual content of them talking as much as the interviews and talking heads were happening. So at one point during them, Danielle reiterates that in the past 6 weeks, since Garrick has been down in Brazil, that she hasn't spoken to him much and she hasn't spoken to Natalia much. So she doesn't really know what exactly is going on. She doesn't really know how they feel. Lack of communication in polygamous families must be a cornerstone or a requirement or something. It's quite maddening. So a phone call comes in. Natalia gets it. I want to say, I think it was the bailiff for the judge who actually contacted her and said, it's a no-go. The judge said, no, I'm not going to marry you. Garrick cries.
Oh, please.
He cries and says, now it's going to be a couple more months before we can get married. This man can't cope. This man can't make good decisions. I do not know how he has a business. And I don't want to slam his business too much for anybody that might be living in Colorado, because I feel bad for Sam and other people who are working for him. But honestly, how could you trust this man? He's building your house right now, but he just took 6 weeks to go on vacation to bang a girl in Brazil. I mean, if my contractor did that, they'd be gone. Goodbye. Stay in Brazil. So after this information comes through, Danny's just pretty much sitting there, and she's like, pity.
It's possible, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think tired.
Why are you so emotional?
Just puts her off coming for a few more months.
You can tell. She's doing everything she can to not smile. She's like, I bite my lip, cover my mouth. But it gets even better than that, because Danielle says, well, you know, whatever, it must be God's plan. Right back at you, Derek. And he has no choice but to agree with her. Yeah.
Everything will happen how it's supposed to.
Yeah. She's like, sometimes we can't see the big picture. We won't see until later, but we just have to trust him and follow him. Everything that Garrick says, she's throwing right back at him, and she is loving it. And we are loving it. And then we have an uncomfortable ending to this episode. So they're all sitting on the couch. They find out there's not going to be a marriage. Garrick's upset. Natalia seems a little sad. Danielle's doing everything she can not to burst out in song. And we have a little bit, it starts off as a little bit of a communication barrier. And that's because Natalia asks Danielle, how do you feel about our marriage? How do you feel about this?
And you, Danny? How are you feeling? And Derek, right? And me?
Good.
And Garrick volunteers the answer for Danielle. This is the first time this has happened. And he says, oh, surprised. And she's like, oh, surprised? And then Danielle realizes that Garrick's not paying attention. And he thought she was asking about the pregnancy. So Garrick says, yeah, well, not surprised. Like, how would we say it? You feel like... And Danielle says, well, yes, we are surprised because it's been 14 years. Natalia's like, no surprise. Did you use condom? All right, let's just get it all out there. We all want to know, too. Did you use birth control? Danielle is pretending like she doesn't understand the word condom when it's presented with a Portuguese accent. So Garrick then interprets and says to Danielle she wants to know if we use protection. And this is where Natalia kept saying, did you have sex on your fertile days? Which is a real personal question. Like, let's narrow it down exactly. And Danielle goes, oh, yeah, sure. Over the 14 years, of course.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. No, it's normal. Well, if it's today?
Yeah, a few times, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And Garrett goes, yeah, sometimes. Okay, contradicting her. She made it sound like she couldn't have any more kids. Like maybe they were going to try to have more kids and they kept trying and trying. And a couple years went by and they didn't have any. And so that was that. And so they don't use protection because she was no longer fertile. When Garrick says, yeah, sometimes, I don't know if he's trying to say, yeah, sometimes on fertile days we would, or if he really meant like sometimes we would use a condom then. Like I wasn't quite exactly sure what he was getting at and why he was contradicting Danielle, unless maybe it's because he possibly told Natalia that they're no longer having sex. That could be. It's immaculate conception. Surprise! Natalia keeps reiterating, it's normal, it's normal. You have sex on fertile days, you have baby. And Danielle keeps saying, no, for 14 years, we had no baby. Even when we have sex, she's like, sex on fertile days. And Danielle says, yes, sex on fertile days. And then she's like, and no baby.
But 14 years, no baby. Oh my gosh, wow.
No. You know, right now I'm not sure if I made the right choice coming down here. It feels like she's angry at me for being pregnant.
And then Danielle gets a little sassy.
Yeah.
Surprise? Because you and Garrett is sex yesterday.
But
I'm surprised.
14 years, surprise, yes.
Okay.
No condom 14 years, baby.
Danielle interprets Natalia's questioning as confrontational. I interpreted it as questioning, trying to gain information. I didn't see it as confrontational at all, but Danielle's pregnant. Many of us have been there. We can't take things personally. Maybe that has something to do with it. But also, I just think Danielle reads a lot into this situation. She's just not digging Natalia. That's what it is. She doesn't want this to happen. And Danielle says something that we were all thinking at the last episode, and that is, I think Natalia thinks I did this on purpose to get Garrick back because they were going to get married and we were having a difficult time in our relationship. I mean, it was something we were all thinking. So at least Danielle is implying that is not the case. And from the 14-year thing, it makes it sound like they haven't used birth control in 14 years.
I think she thinks I purposely got pregnant to keep Garrick and to save our relationship.
If you get something different out of it than I did, let me know. Write it down below. That was my whole interpretation of this crazy kind of interaction between them. And it ended with comic relief. And that's because Natalia, at this point, is looking over at Garrick, who's like, as he always is. But she's just noticing it. See, this deer in the headlights look that he has is always when he cannot figure out how to handle these two. He does not know what to say. He's fine one-on-one, but he has to keep track of all of his lies and what he said to who when everyone is together. And then he becomes the deer in the headlight and doesn't know what to say and needs somebody to bail him out. Apparently she hasn't noticed this that much and obviously hadn't seen it that much in the past 6 weeks because he's just happy-go-lucky on his vacation down in Brazil. But now he's back to ex-wife, live-in lover, mother of my children, not getting along with girlfriend who I want to marry, don't know what to do. So Natalia's like, oh, look at Garrick's face. Oh, all I kept thinking was, get used to it, sweetheart. You can see that face a lot.
Garrick.
In an interview, Danielle admits that she is relieved that there is not going to be a wedding because of the state of her marriage and because of the uncertainty between her and Natalia. She adds that things just are not peaceful right now between all of them. And then we have some reflection from Garrick, and one of the things he says is, why did God allow this? I wrote the answer. I'll send it to him. I wrote, because he is not talking to you in clouds of laughing gas inside your garage, dude. There's your answer. And the episode ends. Okay, not as big a bombshell, but still a solid episode, at least regarding the Merrifields. Oh, and the Davises. The Davises were good only because a quarter of them were in the episode, and then 50% of that time, that quarter of them was talking. Really, Billy was a savior of that story in this. He was great. I mean, bring Billy back, please. Don't go to Florida. Let's do some teleconference and Zoom calls with him. I'm liking him. Okay, the next episode looks good. In the preview, some good things look like they're coming around the corner. So I am looking forward to next week again. Tell me what you thought about this episode. Tell me what you think about all the families. Did you like that the Ryans were not on this episode? Normally, I would say it would be good if the Davises weren't on it, but Billy stole the show, so. And of course, the Merrifields are the gift that keeps on giving. Don't forget, everybody, I have a second channel called Senior Perspective on Sister Wives. And in the event this channel ever gets shut down for some crazy reason, because YouTube just loves to do that, you'll be able to see me over there, and I would start doing this content on that channel until things would get back up and going again. So go subscribe over there, even if you're not interested in Sister Wives, because then at least we still have contact in the event one of the channels goes down. And who knows? You might enjoy one of those reviews too. I bet you will. I'll see you next week for the next recap. You take care. Have a great week.